now when you talk. We can
Good.
Oh,
there we are.
Much better. A lot of people are surprised at how good you can like hear things with the headphones on. But
right.
Anyway, so you're saying you're gearing up for a Friendsgiving. Are you a fan of the holidays relatively?
Yeah.
Is it a little chaotic?
It's a little too crazy. Well, sometimes it gets a little crazy. If it's more friend stuff, I'm cool. If it's family stuff, it's a little. I gotta brace myself.
Got it. It's usually the case. Friends, everyone's like, okay, I'm more inclined to like do stuff with the friends.
Exactly.
And then the family, you're like, ugh, I
Right.
have to trudge and do this. Do you usually work through the holidays? Do you try to like book yourself as far as like gigs and stuff?
It just depends. I mean, if something pops up and it's good, then I'll take it. If it's something that I could just do on like if it's not a special thing, then probably not. Yeah.
You can probably like skip out on it.
Exactly. Yeah. I usually try to book myself. Not as regularly, like, throughout LA because, I don't want to, do the whole, like, just get burnt out in the scene.
Did you do that for like a while and you kind of learned to not overbook yourself, or has it always been like I need to not?
I've kind of always been like that.
Smart.
Because it doesn't, like I know like when a DJ that I really like comes into town, like, I don't want to see them constantly.
Right.
Right. It's like a treat, right?
It's even as someone that like does
Right.
bookings like you do, that
Exactly.
It's like, hey, why we're someone that's getting booked here all the time. There's not as much intrigue as someone that's doing the booking to like bring them on, which is the same thing with us.
Right.
We've had so many artists where we've seen we're like, he's great, and we can bring him or her out, but
again,
they're here, they're just here all the time.
Yeah.
We see them every weekend.
Right.
I don't need to drop any names, but these people know exactly who we're talking about because they're a part of the.
I see you.
Yeah, we're trying to give new content for you.
Yeah,
guys.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is what this is. And yes, sorry, you were huffing. You were gonna say something.
I was just gonna say, and that's also like kind of my goals. I always try to switch it up and get new people, or at least give like people that are really good talent and give them a platform, to perform on or work with like bigger artists that they necessarily wouldn't get build on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of like the pillars of Artificial People is to really, build that coalition of people because there's so much good talent that just doesn't get the platform for it.
I agree. And Artificial People is something is that your collective? You started that, you run that, you're a part of it. How long have you guys been doing that?
Well, yeah, I'm like the HBIC. So, I started that, honestly, like 3 years ago.
Nice.
And we've been growing strong. Like it's been amazing to see the growth and, the amount of people that are really interested in taking notice of the brand. I mean, Insomniac had us host this Paris Hilton show on Friday.
Yes, I was going to bring it up.
I know, but it was but it was, people will say what they say about her, but like the thing that I appreciate about her is she's a really nice person. She was very humble.
Good to clear.
Which,
I'm. It's not that I had an opinion about her, but as like someone that is in the house or the dance music scene, you kind of have the predisposition to kind of assume. I mean, because she's on record saying like, hey, I really tried to become a good DJ. I studied for a whole 6 months. And that's like, her words. So
Right.
she set herself up for a few things, but it's good. I mean, you have the firsthand experience with her. So everybody that's listening, everybody that is involved with you guys, she's a good person. She actually cares for the craft.
Yeah, she does.
Okay,
she cares
good.
about the music.
Good.
She was like, hey, I love those last 3 tracks you played. So she's familiar,
Nice.
so she has taste.
Right.
The other thing is, I mean, say what you will, but she's like the ultimate party girl. And
Right.
I mean, and I feel like I think we're about the same age. So we kind of grew up going to After Hour Power and Giant and all of those like, old school, club sort of, the ones that sort of started the electronic scene here in Los Angeles. And I remember, she would be going to those events. So I'm like, you learn a lot about music and how to sort of tailor your story by being in the scene.
Right.
So I'm like, something has to come of that.
Yeah, I don't think it was one of those instances where she was like, I want to be a DJ because it looks cool and it looks fun, and she kind of already
she likes
has
to party.
that. Yeah, she does like to party. But she has the ability to kind of pick up a craft, pick up a new skill that maybe she wasn't interested in before, but because she's partied so much and been to so many of the higher end things, being Paris Hilton, it's nice. I mean, good for her that she can come in and DJ, and it sounds like she's being welcomed by some people in the industry and in the community, which is great. Right. And you guys played at Academy LA.
Correct.
Right. Have you done stuff with them before? You said it was Insomniac that reached out to you?
Yeah, I was Insomniac for this one. I've played Academy before just as a supporting act, but this time, like, I had headliner slot. So
nice. That's funny. Yeah, I saw the videos. You next to her. That's cool. That's awesome. That's a good opportunity. Again, with you being someone who curates, you can learn to appreciate the fact that you were put on with someone that you might not have otherwise been able to get put on with.
Right.
And that kind of helps you put more people on yourself.
Exactly, because I was able to bring, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but I'm sort of working on a label as well, and sort of building a coalition of DJs and artists. And I was able to get, David Bangella and Matt Suave, who are amazing DJs. David's been doing it for like 20 years, but has gone unnoticed. At least in like sort of the mainstream electronic music scene. And then Matt Suave, who is relatively new, but he's amazing. Like, they both like killed it. And so being able to give people like that a platform is really important to me.
That's good. That's important to you, and it's important to the scene. It's important to the community industry, because again, those people that might not have the opportunity, because if you're starting something, let's say with Artificial People, you started it 3 years ago. For someone that's, let's say a budgeting artist that's coming into the industry, they either have to start like a whole new collective themselves and put themselves on, or they have to rely on other people that kind of have trust in them.
Exactly.
Right. So you're starting the label. You want to touch on that a little bit later, but these are the two artists that you're starting before even having a launch.
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple.
That's smart.
Like, I have about like 10 people I'm working with.
Nice.
So, and right now, I mean, again, being able to just attach them to whatever shows, even if it's a show that we're billing ourselves or something that we're co-collaborating on, I feel that has sort of become strong. I mean, we did that this weekend with Stanton Warriors. I was able to add like 2 artists there, and it's just been, it's been nice to be able to give, have those opportunities for people. Yeah,
and they appreciate it. Trust me. I can tell you for sure. It's where you kind of build faith with people, and especially people that are in the scene, because it's so hard to find good relationships, kind of thing. But speaking of co-collaborating, we co-collaborated at the W Hotel.
Yes.
So the W Hotel is it's a club in Hollywood. They do rooftop pool parties. Is that kind of their niche? Is it like a pool party type thing, or do they do?
Well, the W Hotels Worldwide essentially is a hub for music, fashion, and art. So basically, any of the properties are going to have some sort of activation similar to what we do. I've sort of built a niche there because I've been able to infuse not only music, but also bringing in brands to activate. So working with brands, and then also, giving the platform to the community, like we said.
Yeah.
So that's given me a little bit more leverage to be able to curate bigger shows, bigger events, and then just branch out. I mean, 2020 looks like I'm going to be curating W Austin, W Scottsdale, and then W Miami as well.
Nice.
Those activations will probably be more Pride-centric, only because...
Define activations for me.
Activations is essentially when you come in and you have a program or a launch of something. And for these things, like Pride would be an activation, because there's brand power behind that, meaning either W's Hotels Worldwide, or if there's another brand that is co-sponsoring an event. That could also mean like record labels, like we've had Dirty Bird. We're going to be working with Defected next year too. So there's a lot of like label interaction as well. Nice. And it really just broadens the base of people, and also changes it up, because one of the things that I never want to be is just a one-trick pony. So that's also been my my vision for all this, is to really as like with you guys, give every sort of group that can present something different and a unique point of view, to bring it and give them this awesome space, and possibly, for the future, take you guys to like another venue.
Right. And you guys have worked with us. You've worked with Boom Boom Room. You guys did a summer series party. So for these ones, let's say like Austin, Miami, Scottsdale, are they all... Is it all the same essence of like a summer pool party type energy kind of thing? Summer series?
I believe so. I believe it's going to be all summer focused, just because with winter you get so many variables that I don't know. Like I've just had, even as a party goer, like in my past life, like I've never wanted to go out during the rain.
During the rain.
Yeah, because I'm like,
most people don't.
Wet.
Yeah, wet.
There goes my hair.
Yeah, there goes the hair. Parking, having to get from the car to the venue. There's, it's like a whole thing. For us, we've kind of decided to avoid really going for too much on the winter or the rainy months and the cold and stuff like that, because you've seen in LA, people are so spoiled because you see everything every day of the week. There's something going on that if some month comes around and they're like, I'm okay with not going out, every party's going to take like a...
Yeah, I mean, and aside from that, it just, I don't know, summer to me just gives you that vibe of like being free, being outside, being,
totally,
like it's everything. It's, I mean, in California, I mean, it's perfect for it.
Yeah. And they have a lot of trust in you, and you've kind of earned your keep with them having you come out to Austin, Miami, Scottsdale, LA. Is it something that they kind of want you to do simultaneously? Because it seems like to do 4 cities.
I'm going to have to clone myself.
You are going to have to clone yourself.
No, I mean, I've actually behind the scenes been building a really strong team. So
that's
I think right now we have 5 team members that, if all goes well, we'll have full-time employees next year.
Nice.
And then we'll be able to sort of branch out and sort of emulate what we've established at the W Hollywood. But really, still making sure that the brand ethos is, across the board on all those things.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, just those words, the brand ethos is very, I mean, I love to hear that you're saying that. And I think that's so important for a brand, because a lot of times brands don't have a core. They don't have a reason for what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So the fact that the W can bring you on, and obviously with you comes Artificial People, comes your experience, comes your upcoming record label. Mm-hmm. That's like a brand portfolio mm-hmm. that you're giving to them.
Oh yeah, no, I'm trying to create a whole universe where this all lives in, because I don't know if you know this, but in my past life, like I've been creative director for like Google and Microsoft.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
We're not going to skip over that either. We're going to, what? You were the brand, one more time?
A creative director.
Creative director for Google and for Microsoft.
Google Play and then Microsoft and some other properties. So yeah.
What did you do with them? What did you do with let's say Google Play?
All marketing stuff, like again, activation stuff for like, if we had games that were coming out, we would like create social media pieces, marketing pieces, experiential pieces.
Yeah.
Really 360 activation. So that includes anything from print to digital to, full on experiential. So it's, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. And you left Google.
I did. I just, the 9
was
to
it 5. That whole, it was the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
It was that whole like very strict corporate structure with Google and Microsoft.
It is. It's because for me, I've always been an artist at heart. And one of the things, I've been doing marketing and graphic design and creative direction for 16 years, but I'm like, I want to do it for myself.
As most people I would think should after, that long.
And, but I've always, had an inkling for music, and I'm like, how can I sort of merge the worlds together? And so I'm like, I'm going to create my own universe.
That's the best way to do it. Yeah. When did you start DJing?
I want to say like
while you were at Google.
Yeah, exactly. I was doing everything all at once.
Yeah, story of my life.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm so used to like late nights and, just working really hard for what you really want. And I found that I was plateauing at these companies. That was the other thing.
Really? At a place like Google and Microsoft, there is that ability. Like, is it just that they don't kind of give you the creative freedom as a creative director, which seems kind of counterintuitive?
They give you creative freedom, but at the end of the day, you have stakeholders.
Still their image.
We have stakeholders. And also me as a person, like I felt that specifically like at Microsoft, I felt that I was more, I'm more edgy. My style is definitely more, pushing the envelope, trying to do new things, and that's not their brand. Right. And even though, it was a lot of great experience for me. Like I don't want to badmouth my,
not at all.
My experience, but I think. It's just again pushing the creative boundaries, and and the W has been like right behind me on that. And nice. I feel like a brand like the W is more in line with who I am as a person, what my brand is, and what I'm trying to sort of accomplish.
Right. You're the exact story of taking a camera and pointing it at someone that's hard at work at a company that's like a Google or a Microsoft or an Apple or something like that, and your creativity is bubbled. Because I mean, obviously, as creative as they allow you to be as a creative director, there's still stakeholders, there's still an image that they have to uphold, so there's going to be a lot of like pushback with it.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, it's because there's marketing and data and things that you have to take into account when designing things like that. And here I'm like, well, the things that I have to take into account are, am I sticking to my brand ethos? What are the pillars that are we sticking to all of our pillars? Are we growing and really putting our money where our mouth is? And and I'm able to do that and be more nimble.
And this is, you mean as artificial people? Okay, so you have the brand ethos. How do you like kind of structure your pillars? Because a lot of people that listen might not understand that part of building a brand. So what is it that, I mean, the ethos is being inclusive, being, sharing your image of what you want and incorporating people and bringing in new talent. So how is it that you structure the pillars to kind of support that?
Well, I mean, it really just goes back to like how we want to be viewed in the community.
Right.
I mean, a lot of it is community. I mean, like that is like one of the main pillars, The other one is like new music, the experience, that's a really big one for us because we want to make sure that, trans people can come to our shows and feel accepted.
Right.
We want to make sure that the bros come and they're cool too with the people. I mean, I've really tried to make this brand as inclusive as possible, just because like I grew up on that,
Yeah,
like
of course.
I didn't grow up going to gay clubs, even though I'm gay, but. No. Shocker. Stop the tape.
Yeah.
Stop the tape. But I also want to be a leader in our community to show them that we can also like do cool things with mixed crowds.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that really inspired me was when I went to Spain, and I remember I was like, "Hey, can you take me to gay after hours?" And the guy's like, "What are you talking about? There's no gay after hours. It's just after hours."
Yeah.
And I rolled up, and it was like everybody was partying and having a great time, and and the energy was amazing. And I'm like, I want to do that here, And here I feel like, particularly in the gay community, we segment ourselves, and I'm like, why are we doing that?
That's what's kind of confusing.
Why are we doing that?
Yes, listen. Yeah, same question. I didn't grow up, being integrated. I'm Arab. I'm Lebanese, and I was just never brought up with that. But to me, it's like, how does it not automatically everyone integrate with each other? That's what I understand. Why do you think it is that the gay community segments itself? Or let's say you wanted to have a party where trans people can come and feel comfortable. Like, why is it that they're not already comfortable? Like, let's say for us with the 900 block, it's a fully inclusive, anybody can come, and we encourage fucking 1,000 people, everybody of all race, mix.
Come on now.
Anybody, come. Like, I've never understood how or why is it that there's people are segmenting each other, especially in LA.
I mean, I feel like it's just what I think is this like a generational thing. You know what I mean? Because I think like particularly like the generation, like the baby boomers, like they weren't allowed to be free and out,
right.
And so it sort of created like this bubble for them, you know what I mean? So like there's a lot of people that are partying late in their 50s, and then there's like people in their 40s, and like I don't know, it also has to do, I think, a little bit with classism and a little bit of racism, if we're really honest about it. Because a large portion of what I've noticed is like the trans community is African American, and they're just, like I feel like they get like the last tier on things,
That's so weird.
Yeah. And I'm like, and that's why like, people have come up to me, they're like, wow, like I never would have thought I would be accepted at a place like the W before, and to have like, that kind of, response from people, like that says a lot to me. Like, I'm just like, no, you shouldn't feel like you should always be welcome.
Absolutely. Like everywhere.
Yeah.
At every fucking where anyway. I mean, again, maybe I'm just very opinionated about this, or I'm very blind and ignorant to the fact that this is kind of going on. But I just personally, I've just never understood it, because I do know that it's there's things that are kind of preventing people from wanting to be more open and more outgoing and be at places that they're not really like necessarily comfortable with. But I think you just gotta go. Like,
yeah,
it's
and
just go. And
look,
no one's gonna say anything for the most part.
Yeah, and the tide is changing, though. I mean, one of like the biggest, I think, community leaders right now is the boys that do the Osbenhoff party.
I'm not familiar.
So that's an underground party that's been started in LA, and it's led by Victor Rodriguez and Black Charmed, and they have done an amazing job of making an inclusive event, and and my hat's off to them, because I think that they're doing exactly like what I had hoped to be doing, but they're doing it like in a way that is a little bit more gritty and underground, and it has an amazing vibe.
More underground than we're already doing it.
More underground.
How do you get more?
Like they're literally underground.
They're literally underground.
I'm kidding. They're under bridges. Yeah. Actually, they were under bridges that one event. But I digress. I think what I feel my role is to bring it to the mainstream, because
Absolutely.
That's how, when you get things in the mainstream and you get the help that you can and brand equity from brands like the W, like that's when it becomes socially acceptable, and it just kills the stigma of things, because it's like, oh, I'm going to go to the W and see like trans people, I'm going to see African American people, I'm going to see like
straight
queer
people, I'm going to see queer
everything.
people,
Exactly.
Man, female. The only thing is just no kids, but other than that, it's like, fuck them anyway.
Yeah, who needs
children?
Those soul suckers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm with you on that. I like the fact that you kind of see the problem and you're doing what you can to address it, because honestly, at the end of the day, that's all we really can do.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, and look, not all of our shows are always, the complete mix of people, but that's also by design, because one of the things that, at least with our official people, what I want to do is keep it fresh. So bringing in different crews, obviously bringing in new faces,
right?
But the old faces that are with us come still, and so that's when you get that integration.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's good. More power to you. Are you guys focused more with artificial people, more of like being involved with the above ground kind of stuff with the W Hotel? Because at every point for like a collective, I think you can only be underground for so long. There are collectives that have been doing it for like over a decade, and they pretty much run LA, which I get, but I don't know. At some point, you would think that you got to pull it above ground.
Yeah, honestly, that's the way. That's the only way to make a brand survive. Unfortunately, because at the end of the day, if you're like, I'm big on production value. Like, if I could have $1 million for every show, like you would see it.
It would be on the floor.
But I'm always like balancing, like, okay, do I want the hot DJ, or do I want like a really cool new experience? And that's something that I think any producer is always dealing with. But to your question, like I think you do need to have that above the ground quality, because the more mainstream you become, and this is obviously the more production and more money you'll be able to invest into your projects. But one of the things that I've seen is like, as brands get bigger, like, they lose their brand ethos, and that's something that, as a collective, like when there's many heads at the table, like it's easy to do, because everybody has different goals and different agendas, and that's just part of human nature.
You mean as far as like one collective with many heads at their team, you think it's easier to run stuff?
No, it's harder.
Okay, that's I was gonna say. What the fuck are you talking about? That's not easier.
No, it's much harder, because everybody sees things through a different lens. And when I was only doing like when we started the events, like before Artificial People, we were doing just a one-off pool party for Pride in San Diego.
Okay.
Like once a year. That was it.
That was the Artificial People. That's what you guys were doing.
That was the bare bones. Yeah.
That was before you were DJing, or
yeah, exactly. That's like
on the cusp of everything.
I was like
blossoming.
Beat matching, and I remember I played once, and it was all over the place. And I was like, what am I doing? But I pulled it together.
You got your shit together.
I got my shit together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get it together.
Yeah.
But you got
I remember I had to work with other people, because nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew what I was capable of. And so you have to, you have to pay your dues.
Yeah.
And so I was working with a group of guys, and it was just really difficult to navigate, because this was around the time that techno was really coming in, it was more underground, right? And so I remember I was like, oh my God, I want to get like Butch. I want to get Ricardo Villalobos. I want to get like all these like, you know, like sexy techno kind of vibe. And no, it was all, you know, they had a more Britney Spears sort of vision. And I'm like, well, that's not what I want to do. But I'm like, okay, I have to compromise, right? So we would do the first part of the show a little bit more sexy techno, and then the next like a little bit more pop mainstream.
Sure.
And so that's when I knew I was like, I need to just do something for myself, because like I have a very distinct point of view, and it's something that it's hard to navigate with so many people.
Yeah, everybody deals with that issue. I think when you're running a collective, it's never going to be one person's vision entirely, unless it's one person's collective and that they're hiring everybody else. But for the most part, it's all about compromise. I mean, there's a lot of things that with 900 Block, it's not all how I want. It's not all how Narek or Stefan or Michael Pham wants it. Like, we all have to sit down and like, fuck, what can we be okay with not having? Right. For me, for him, for you know, the brand as a whole, because it's more important than us. It's the brand is the bigger picture.
Right. And I think that's where, you know, going back to the thing of like when brands go above ground, like that's when they falter, because then when you're getting to those bigger levels, like everything just goes sideways, because everybody has a different vision for and how to grow the brand. And at the end of the day, one thing that I've noticed, even this is true, even working in marketing and you know, all my brand work, is that if you don't have a vision and you don't have a strong leader, your brand's going to go sideways.
Yep. It's going to go sideways. It's going to go backwards. It's going to go anywhere but up.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. And the above ground is important, and it's a scary place to navigate, because coming from the underground, I feel like people kind of don't know how to navigate and don't know what to talk about, and they just kind of want to throw parties, and they get themselves involved with above ground venues or above ground brand owners that have nothing to do with our industry.
No, and I mean, at the end of the day, all they see is numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And it's hard as a producer if you're going to a new venue and you're trying to make a deal and still do a cool event. Like, there's not many venues that are going to give you that opportunity like more than once. So if you're not showing numbers in your first 3 events, like they don't look at that as, they look at it as a waste. And it's unfortunate, because we all know that it takes 4 or 5 events in order to get anything like poppin', because
if not more.
No, yeah, because you would think that people would come just because of your brand and who you are, but you have to train people.
Right.
I mean, it's just like anything. It's like, okay, the event was here, but now we've moved it here. And so they just have to get used to it.
Yeah, you like the party that was here because of us and the sound and the energy that's there, not because of the venue. Not because we're in an underground spot. Like, a lot of people are more comfortable being in the underground than the above ground, because costs go up for everything, ticket prices, bar sale, drink prices.
Oh my God, drinks, yeah.
And then with the drink prices, those above ground venues expect you to reach sometimes an absurd amount of money at the bar. So it kind of it prevents a lot of the underground from coming above ground.
100%.
Because even though they want to, they're like, dude, we're not going to hit a $50,000 bar minimum.
No, some of these are just, they're not realistic. I mean, and also, you know, one of the things that nightlife has to realize, or at least the, you know, nightclub owners, like, we're not in the years of bottle service anymore. Like, millennials don't have that money to throw at bottles, you know?
And even if they do, they're throwing it on, I mean, they might have the money for it, but they're not throwing it on, they go to so many shows. No one's going to like, hey, let's get a bottle. It doesn't have that same
No, they
essence.
They actually did a study on this, that millennials, particularly that segment, was, they're not about nightclubs, actually. They're more about experiences.
Right.
And so that's why festivals are so huge right now. Like, I mean, you throw a festival any weekend and it's sold out. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, everywhere from here to Vegas to
across
Coachella
the country.
Valley.
Actually, across the world.
Across the world.
I mean, look at EDC. Look at, like, I mean.
EDC. I was talking with Sydney, who is a performer for Insomniac, and we were just talking about EDC, Vegas, Korea, Mexico, and I think they're going to do another EDC somewhere else. But it's like,
goals.
Right? Everyone, it kind of is. Everyone, Insomniac has always been like the godfather of everything.
I mean, Monster Massive, Electric Daisy. I mean,
how
like,
sweet it is.
Yeah, like all of those things.
Fuck, what is it? The Winter Wonderland? The winter snow one? I don't fucking know. There's too many of them, and now they're taking over the underground though. They're doing Secret Project, which is, I mean, it's not really an underground type of thing.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like they're
Factory 93.
Factory 93. I feel like they're definitely monopolizing on it, but that's just what a smart business person does. Yeah. You know, like you see a need for it, but you know they also have the resources for it. Right. You know, like when is 900 Pop getting Peggy Goo?
Right. Exactly.
You know, Carl Cox. Like
that's another thing though. So with like the Insomniacs being able to shell out whatever Peggy Goo asks for, whatever Carl Cox asks for as far as booking fees and stuff like that, they're going to work with the agent, but for the most part they'll cover the more expensive topics, or they'll cover the more why do people always come in when I'm having the fucking thing? They'll cover the more expensive bookings, so that puts people in the underground at a pretty shitty position, because if I want to try to talk to the agent about booking someone like Peggy Goo, they're going to think, hey, well, Insomniac is paying for this much, like why, this is what her rate is, right? And it puts everybody in a fucking tough spot.
It's a little bit tricky. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but I feel that there is still room for underground and still making those bookings. Do you need to get this?
I don't think so. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, yeah, of course.
Sorry.
No, we share the conference room with a printer. No, it's okay. No worries.
Hi.
So with Pride, what is the brand expansion that you were talking about? Because Artificial People, if we're talking about the brand as a whole of what you've been doing, it's kind of a culmination now of where you're going towards the record label side. You have the underground stuff that you guys are doing. You work with the W Hotel, which is the above ground. You DJ yourself, and you what else am I missing on?
Fashion line.
Okay, what's going on with that?
Yeah, so basically you've named off a couple of the verticals, but yeah, we've been developing a fashion line to go with everything, because I'm like, hey, if you want to come to our parties, we can also dress you up for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know. I've always had a knack for fashion, and I also just love like.
Yes, I can see that. Yes, stylish.
And I also just, I love the idea. I mean, I'm just a creative person, so like I want to be able to just, I don't want to limit myself to what the creativity is. And a lot of the time, especially like through music, like I get inspired like to, I know this is going to sound crazy, but like when I'm listening to beats or listening to music riffs, like I'm like in my head designing clothes. It's so weird.
That is bizarre. Yeah. I wouldn't think to like make the comparison. So is it like are you designing like the idea of it, or the actual design of like, hey, this song is kind of fitting with like this blouse, this.
Yeah, like I could be wearing like, a shirt, and then I'm like, okay, like that beat just hit, like what if we did like a mesh part there or something.
That's an interesting perspective on it. That's good though. I mean, that shows your creativity is not it's you can go anywhere with it.
Yeah, I mean, and once upon a time I was also a fashion designer, so it was.
What are you, 60? How do you have time to do all this stuff?
Yeah, J-Lo jeans.
Yeah, exactly. Fashion designer for who? For where?
Oh my God, Ed Hardy.
Really? You're a fashion designer for Ed Hardy?
I was.
You were the reason behind all those. Like,
I wasn't the reason. I was one of the people behind the designs.
No kidding.
So this is an interesting story. So I essentially. I was a graphic designer at that time, and so I was like, well, I want to learn fashion, but I don't want to pay another $100,000 to go to fit them, So I found there was a job opening at Hardy for marketing graphic designer, and I got it, and I got in. I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn how to sew and build my tech packs, and so I got in there. I did all the stuff I was supposed to do, and I would stay after hours to like, do like my designs and patterns and like all that stuff. And one of the designers there showed me how to sew. So like one day I just came up with the whole presentation, and I'm like, this is what we could be doing with the brand, and this is what I want to do. Like I want to be able to design stuff.
Yeah.
And, the manager was like, yeah, let's do it.
Damn. That's taking the initiative and a half.
Oh, yeah, because I was like, you know what? I learned how to do it. And unfortunately, with that brand, I was very limited because their whole thing was to just create like the same thing over and over again. Yeah. And I was like, over here with like, more couture stuff. And they just, they weren't interested.
Are they still a brand?
I think so.
Is it Ed Hardy? I'm not familiar.
I think I don't know if they're still creating new things, but I believe.
For the love of God, create new things. That shit. I didn't.
But see, the thing is, like they had such good designers on the team. Like I was just like flabbergasted because you could do so many cool things without just slapping a tattoo on you. You know, like we had done like these really cool kimonos before kimonos were like back in style, and they had all like the imprint inside, so it was like a reveal.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, like you could do so much with it. It's just like, you know, you have to think outside the box, and unfortunately thinking outside the box also requires more expenditures on the production end. So
yeah, but I mean, that's something that they could afford to do, because again, it should always be about a bigger picture. It should always be about like, hey, where are we going to be 10 years from now? Because a brand like Ed Hardy, let's say it was hot at some point, and they had their like moment in the sun, but at some point, I mean, tastes develop, people get older.
But again, it comes down to vision. You know, and I think like, you know, the person that was driving that vision was only looking at the dollars that could, like, basically, you know, like a lot of business people, they just like, it's almost like venture capitalism where you just come in and you just want to sell the shit out of it until you can't, you know, squeeze it until it's dry. And for me, like I'm always been a person that wants to play the long game. Like I'm playing chess, you know what I mean? So
as you should.
Yeah. Fuck. So I'm like, all right, well, slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Amazon.
Jesus.
That's slow and steady, baby.
That's slow. I mean, slow and steady. They kind of just they went from just doing books.
No, but it's been around for forever.
90s, late 90s,
like late 90s.
That's going on what, 20 years? Jesus. And at some point they were just doing books.
Exactly.
It was strictly like books only that they sold, and then but they were able to kind of develop and like, hey, people don't just want to fucking buy books.
Exactly. Online. And that's sort of
what
like,
else can we do? And then they do everything.
Exactly. And that's sort of like where I'm at, because we have a couple other products that we're gonna sort of be, you know, touching on in 2021. So our 2020 goals are essentially record label, fashion line, you know, expenditure of the brand into these different territories. 2021, we're looking at a liquor.
Oh, wow.
And then also CBD products. So it's going to, I mean, because all of it, it's basically the idea is to get all your party in one place.
Wow, that's genius. You get the clothing, you get the music, you get the drinks, you get the CBD, you get the experience. It really is all encompassing, and I think that's how every brand should be. And it's good that I'm really happy, and I'm really happy for you that you have the 2020 in mind, you have the 2021 in mind. But does it ever like deciding to set goals for 2020 and 2021, does it ever occur to you like, hey, what about what we're doing right now? Does that, because I've been that before where we're like focusing on 2020 and let's say 2021, but at the same time you're like, well, we need to perfect what we're doing now first before we decide to kind of wear ourselves too thin.
Right. And I think we've done that actually. Like, you know, I don't want to toot our own horn, but you know,
toot the fuck out of it. Yeah.
You know, I feel like with the team we have now, they've been really strong to be able to bring it up to where we, you know, need to be. And we've also, I used this year to sort of explore other options and see what things work for us.
Yeah.
Like we were programming things at Wisdom, LA.
That's right.
We tried some stuff with Resident as well. And so the things that also, I narrowed it down to the things that stuck, and that just seemed to be our pool events and rooftop parties.
Right.
And, you know, so I'm like, okay, well, let's really focus on the things that work for us. And I mean, and for Stanton Warriors, like we had like 600 people there on a Sunday night.
Damn. At the rooftop pool?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not just like summer daytime only pool, but they are okay with you like expanding. Is it like day into night, or there was just a nighttime party?
It was our second 12-hour party. Like our first event was with Boom Boom Room, where we sort of experimented with like the times.
Yeah.
And that was really successful.
Yeah,
I mean,
it looked cool.
Jarrell's like an amazing partner and somebody that people should look out for.
Yeah, shout out Jarrell. I had him on the show too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have all you motherfuckers on the show. Believe it or not.
We should do it in groups next time.
Yeah, right. Help me out. Let's do it. Just bring 2-3 people at a time. Everybody will take turns talking on the mic. Get this shit over with.
Well, actually, it'd be cool because maybe we could do a series with that with collaborations.
With what,
with artificial people, and like, because we do a lot of collaborations, so bringing in like somebody from Dirty Bird and us, or bringing in Jarrell, and you know what I mean, and we could talk about like future projects and events. Anyways, that's an offline conversation.
Yeah, we'll talk after. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the tequila thing after, because I'm interested, and
well, it's gonna be vodka first.
Vodka. How do you start with vodka? Why vodka?
Because
Tequila's like always the. You're a vodka drinker?
I'm a vodka drinker.
I wouldn't take you for a vodka drinker.
Yeah, I'm a vodka drinker. What? Because I'm Latino.
Latino, because there's no racism on this podcast. Slightly because you're
Lies,
Latino. All right, vodka. Interesting. Yeah. That's a good take.
I mean, I feel like, it was also driven by data because we went back to the W and I sort of like assessed like.
You have the in.
I have the inside scoop, yeah.
Smart.
And it's like, well, what was the most drinks sold? And it was all vodka.
It was at a party. I can see that.
Because the goal eventually is to have our brand sponsor our own events and beyond. Right. Because in that way it's, a marketing tool, and also it helps build brand equity and brand awareness across the board.
Self-perpetuating. Mm-hmm. The whole cog is just run internally, which is fucking the goal, which is a masterclass of how to develop and how to grow more than just being a one-trick pony. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there are a lot more collectives now that are kind of diversifying their portfolio, so to speak, because the events aren't everything. You can't just do events because so many people do events only.
And not only that, but people don't think about like one event is good, but if rain comes, like you're fucked.
Yeah.
You just lost money on that one.
Yeah, you lost money on that one, and people are the few people that did go. Next time they're going to come around. Oh, the last one was kind of so there's and you're putting all your eggs in one basket.
You're only as good as your last event sometimes.
Yeah. So doing the record label is, I think, great because. I'm sure, obviously it takes a lot of work, but it's not as you getting out there and spending the long nights. Like you're going to just be able to work internally and curate music and curate sounds that your brand represents.
Exactly. I mean, and for me, like I want to hire the right people to do their job because I don't want to be responsible for every aspect of the business. And I've also learned in my tenure at these big companies that you hire people better than you. You know what I mean?
You hire people better than you.
You hire people better than you.
And you gotta find people better than you. You gotta trust people.
Yes.
That's the biggest.
But they're out there.
They are out there.
They're out there.
Where the fuck are you guys?
I mean, I have 5 of them.
You're taking it away from everybody. Yeah, mine. Exactly. Yeah. You should hold them motherfuckers, hide them, keep them.
I mean,
I feel you. I feel you on that totally.
I mean, no. I mean, and I'm happy to help anybody who needs guidance or whatever. Like I think that there's enough pie at the table for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. LA is a never-ending display of experiences, of music, of record labels, of EPs being released, shows and festivals. So there's enough people. I mean, what is there? 12 to 14 million people in LA.
Exactly.
Half of which are old enough to party, and half of those actually do go in parties. So it's like. That's why there's so many more collectives opening, so many more DJs coming out. I mean, everybody's a DJ. You hear that all the time, but
exactly,
I'm not. Bitch, no. I never got that. I never gained that skill set. But it's a tough market, but it's I think the most rewarding market because you can.
Well, a lot of people see it as a competitive market. I see it as a community building market.
Yes.
Because I've never pit myself against other people because of that reason that I think that there's more than enough people to come, and that's true in the gay community and straight community. And that's why I try to make it like the center hub for everything.
Yeah.
But
smart.
Yeah, and I mean, and if we all work together, we can all be great.
I agree. Listen to the man, people, please. I've thankfully, and I can say this with full confidence, I have yet to see a competitiveness in our industry. I don't really see collectives that are really out to get someone else, or there's there's probably internal, like some collectives probably dislike each other, whatever. That's none of our business. But
I've seen some of it.
How is it that even is shown? Because I have yet to see it, thankfully.
Well, a lot of it is just like the shade that's done on social media. Like there's a lot of shading that goes on, and I just don't see a need for it.
Yeah, of course not.
If you're good at what you do, you don't need to put other people down, and who cares? Like if somebody thinks something of you, let them.
Exactly. One, whatever someone else's opinion of you is none of your business.
Exactly.
Two, if you're good at something, you're not going to have a need to really care to stoop down to somebody else's level. Yeah. So it's like the community or the collectives or the individuals, I should say, that are playing that social media, shade game. It's silly, and they're not going to last. Those are people that if the ones that are not ahead, but the ones that they're shading, if they can just shoo it, so to speak. I'm speaking with my hands for those of you that are listening, but if you can just shoo it out of the way and kind of not let it derail you, and you don't stoop down to their level and shade right back, you're gonna outwin the race.
Well, I mean, and it's not even a thing about being shady back. I think it's just the energy that you have to pull. Like anything, like I've sort of gotten to the level in my life and career where anything that's bringing me down, I'm like, I just don't want any part in it.
Yeah, no,
you know?
we have enough stresses and anxiety.
Yeah, I'm like, I have to put on a show for 8,000 people. Like, I don't have time for this.
What is that? Which one is that?
That's for Pride.
That's for Pride. Yes. Did we talk? I don't think we touched on the Pride 2020. Speaking of hotel takeovers, you're doing a hotel takeover for. Is it the W?
Yeah.
Oh,
W.
duh.
Yeah.
Fucking duh. Obviously, you're gonna do it for the W in Hollywood for Pride 2020. When is that?
It's gonna be in June.
Okay. It's the same time every year.
Same time every year. Right. It's the second week of June. Our Pride event is by far our biggest event. Last year we had, I think, about almost 2,000 people come through.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's hectic.
It was crazy.
Fun, but
it's crazy. It was fun. It was hectic. I mean, but it was amazing. Like, just to see how many people like just came and were having a good time, and we felt really proud of that. This year, my vision for it is to sort of close down Hollywood Boulevard and make the hotel also activated, so you'll be able to access the main stage on Hollywood Boulevard, and then also access all the different stages on the hotel property. So there'll be the rooftop, there'll be the garden terrace, which is downstairs, the loft, and then we're also going to do something really fun and cool with some of the Pose people from that show FX in the conference room to do like a voguing ball.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to like change the game up in LA.
Did you say you're going to shut down Hollywood Boulevard?
I'm going to shut down Hollywood
Who
Boulevard.
the fuck do you know? Who the fuck do you know that you get to just shut it down? But I that's great that they're allowing you. Again, it was your calling for you to be in a position with somewhere in like the W that allows you to look at something like this, to see like, hey, we're not just the rooftop, but let's see the other potential that we have here. We're something with like Google and Microsoft. They're like, yeah, fuck your whatever you want. This is what it is because we say so.
Right.
That's great. Yeah. That's gonna be a good show. I'm gonna come to that one.
Yeah. No, that one. It's like everybody is invited, all fam. Like it's gonna be one for the books, I think. I mean, because like I'm just so excited because it's like an iconic. It's like just so picturesque. Like we've been canvassing the space and sort of working with like all production aspects to get the sound and all that behind the scenes stuff. And I'm just imagining like how iconic that's going to be because it's on Hollywood and Vine.
And it's a parade?
No, it's just going to be a festival, block party.
Pride 2020 is going to be just a block party.
Block party, yeah.
Is it normally a parade?
So LA,
or is that a different thing?
So LA Pride is separate from what we're doing.
And LA Pride is the parade.
That's in West Hollywood, correct? Yeah.
Okay,
so we're sort of an alternate Pride of sorts.
What's your involvement with Pride 20? Like Pride?
Like LA Pride proper? Like I don't know if we're going to be collaborating on this or that's sort of in the works.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So
but
that'll be
there's
TBD.
an in that you have to do with something.
I think there should be because next year is LA Pride's 50th anniversary. So I would like to have a little bit more of that community feel and camaraderie.
Yeah.
So I actually have that call next week after everyone's back from vacation. So we'll see where that goes. But
update me.
Yeah.
I want to hear all the details.
Yeah, because that'll be really cool. But like right now we're like talking to Lizzo and Disclosure.
No kidding.
And, like I don't want to name drop, but I'm gonna
do it. Yeah.
So like I really like looking at those kinds of headliners to really like amp up, take it to the next level, and then have the local sort of from the collective support, and I think it'll be a fun show.
Yeah, if there's anything you need from us, we're on board. We'll always help you out. Yes. Knock on wood. So, is there anything else you wanted to touch on? Anything? Did we miss anything?
I think that was
we got your fashion. We got your DJing with alongside Paris Hilton. Sorry, not sorry. The collaborations, the summer series, everything sounds like you've got your center. You have your feet planted and you're pushing your brand now with more like
yeah.
Right.
No, I mean, it's a lot more stress, but it's also a lot more expectation. But it's a lot more, it's like fulfilling now. I mean, not that it wasn't before, but it's getting me to that place where I'm like, okay, like this is real, like this is happening. I mean, you know, we had like 1,200 people at Paris Hilton, so it was pretty awesome.
I mean, in Dream sells out shows,
and Dream State was there. I mean, Dream State was that weekend too.
Right.
So the fact that we were able to sort of compete with something where a large swath of our audience went, like, was kind of awesome.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's probably the one thing I forgot to like touch on, that when we were talking about like collectives and brands competing with each other. The only time I've seen that is because there's so many collectives and because there's so many shows on any given night. Mm-hmm. There's always like 7 huge parties happening at once.
Exactly.
Like we've had warehouse parties where we're like, oh shit, well, this collective's doing something, this collective's doing, what's going to set us apart?
Right.
And I think it just starts from the top down.
It does. I mean, you have to, any successful party like that I've seen that can carry longevity, it starts with the hosts, the promoters, you know, like what is the vibe that you're setting? I mean, if you're walking around all coked out and mad, like, you know, you're gonna set that vibe. But if you're walking around like, hey, how are you? Like, here's a drink ticket.
Yeah, or, welcome to the party. How'd you hear about the show?
And you guys are really good about that. Like, I really respect 900 Block and all the stuff that you guys have done, because I go there and I feel welcomed. And, you know, I see how you treat newbies and even like, you know, obviously like people that keep coming to your shows. But, you know, it's a family vibe.
Yeah, 100%. It's, I mean, our goal from the beginning was, what can we do different? What are we doing that is going to really set us apart? And it really started with us caring about the people that came, and our family, even as like us that put on the party with Narek, Stefan, myself, and Michael Pham, we're a family. We're outside. If 900 Block were to stop today, you'd still see us out, all 4 of us with our ladies, like out and about, and we have a family. So it's like, for us, if we treat ourselves this way, the people that come to the parties, we're always like welcoming and talking to them, and how did you hear about the party? What can we do to make you feel better? You doing good? Okay, cool. And I don't think we're not all heavy drug addicts, so like really at all in the slightest. We're all old, tired, and we'd rather be at home sleeping than, you know, really pushing through the night.
Yeah, but you're doing it because you love the music and you love the experience.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's one of those where, I mean, again, Narek and I don't DJ, but we still love the community. We still love the culture. We want to bring something to the culture and to the community that wasn't there before. So let's say if it were to stop tomorrow, we would hope there would be some sort of a void. Right. You know?
I think there would be.
Well, thank you. I thank you. I appreciate you.
There'd be a void in my heart.
Your heart will always be full of 900 Block. Where can everybody find the brands that you represent, social media? What are your ats?
You can find us at the AP, sorry, I just got this, the apgalaxy.com. That's going to be our new website. That's going to host all of our events, fashion, and in anything under this and within our universe. Yeah. But also, if you want to use Facebook, it's Artificial People for Facebook, Noir D Costas for Facebook, and it's the same thing for Instagram.
Nice. Any big shows coming up aside from 2020 for focusing on the end of the year bash?
No,
kind of thing?
I mean, I honestly thought we were going to be done with our shows like 3 months ago.
It's always like that.
And
it never works that way.
No, and it's been like, you know, like I'm the kind of person that you wave something shiny in front of me and I'm gonna fucking bite. Like, you know, I'm just like, squirrel.
I mean, you know how to seize a good opportunity. That's all it is.
Exactly.
It's like, we told ourselves at the beginning of this year, we're like, we're not gonna have a party once a week, because I think last year we were doing fucking 2-3 parties a month. It was crazy, up, dude.
No, and I made the same mistake the first year I started curating for the W, when I really started like doing a lot of shows. I had like a show every week too, and I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Like first of all, the booking of people, you know, finding the right artists. Are they going to be available? Coming up with the money to like, you know, facilitate that. Yep. It's like, it's a lot. Yeah. And so you just got to think smarter. And if I can give any advice to any aspiring, like, you know, producers, I would say, you know, once a month, you know, just do a really good show once a month and you'll be solid.
Yeah. Yeah, we have our pattern bar regular once a month, and then we really focus our energy into one big party in once a month. Exactly. But it's like now we're at a point where we're looking at July of next year. We're looking at April of next year. We're looking at what can we do outside of LA. We're looking at curating it now. That way, as the months go by, we're like, no, we're already booked up. We're done. We're not going to add this onesie twosie shows just to kind of have something.
Well, believe me, once I get to their places, I'm gonna drag you guys with me.
Yeah, please, we're coming. You don't gotta drag us. We're just gonna be walking around.
I'm like, wait, I was just kidding. Go back.
Well, on that note, thank you for coming. I appreciate you. I love you, and keep doing what you're doing for the industry.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
And appreciate you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Bye.